Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
And you got Luke. And James, let me just tell you, this episode was a long time coming. I can't believe we haven't done this one before. And was this a write-in?
This was a write-in.
Nice.
Hot off the heels of our Engineering the Perfect Pizza episode. About 50 episodes later, we have Engineering the Perfect Burger.
Hot off the griddle.
Hot off the griddle.
See what I did there?
Yeah, real quick, Luke, if any of you want to quit listening to us and find some good information, head over to findcooking.com/article/the science of grilling burgers. A lot of good stuff out there.
So not a cut and paste for you.
No, not at all. I actually contributed to their science of grilling article. So suck on that, Luke.
Alrighty then. So let's do a little bit of history. So there's a little kerfuffle about who actually invented the hamburger. And there's like multiple ones out there. Like, was it Hamburg in Germany? Was it Hamburg in New York? Was it somewhere else? So the two most, and there's probably 6 or 7 different ones that I found, but the two, I was holding up 3 fingers. The two that I found probably most reasonable to believe. 1885, a cat by the name of Charlie Nagreen of Seymour, Wisconsin. This young feller, at the age of 15, was selling hamburgers from an ox-drawn cart at the county fair. But he wasn't selling hamburgers. He was selling meatballs. And what he realized was, like, they weren't doing too well because, like, you know, people, what do? You just hold the meatball and just kind of like eat the meatball?
That's how you eat a meatball, yeah.
That's how I eat meatballs, but you can't do that at a county fair.
No.
So he flattened the meatball, threw it between 2 pieces of bread, and called the creation a hamburger. I don't know why he would have called it
a ham. Yeah.
This is the one I don't know if I believe, but this is the most notable one. He was known to many as Hamburger Charlie. Again, I don't know where the Hamburg came from. They didn't say. This one is so like legit that in 2007, the Wisconsin legislature declared Seymour, Wisconsin, home of the hamburger, much to the chagrin of all the other people that in states and cities. I got all these words. There's a whole decree. I'm not going to read it, but essentially they're claiming, Wisconsin, that they did this. The second one that I found, and this one is more reasonable to me.
I like the other one. I believe it. Go ahead.
Here's the reason why I believe this one. So this is this cat did this in 1885. This one is
Both
also.
Of these happened in 85?
Yeah, this is. So the other one is. This is the family of Frank and Charles Mensch. They were Menches. My guess isn't a Mensch oh my goodness.
I think it's like a good person. Like,
yeah,
you're a real mensch.
But that was her last name was Mensch. They said these 2 brothers invented the hamburger while traveling in a 100-man traveling concession circuit that was going around the Midwest in the 1800s. They were in the Erie County. They both started at fairs. They were at the Erie County Fair in Hamburg, New York. The brothers ran out of pork for their hot sausage patties, and they just so happened to say to the butcher, "Hey, what do you got for us?" And they're like, "Hey, I got no more pork for you, but I got all this like beef trimmings." So they took the beef, added some brown sugar, put coffee in it, which sounds disgusting, and served it between 2 pieces of bread. That's what it says. It sounds gross. And they called it the hamburger after being in Hamburg, New York. That's why this one makes more sense. The other one, there's no Hamburg connection that I could find. And yeah, so that one was, and he was actually listed by the Los Angeles Times as the inventor of the hamburger in his obituary in 1951. So
okay,
this one seems more reasonable because the fair, they were both at fairs. This one was in Hamburg. So
he was working with pork products and then, had to go to beef. I think you're right. But it
Yeah.
does seem like 1885, we kind of have decided, is the time just who was the one that did it.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. I liked that, Luke. Do you have more history for us?
No, that's all I did.
All right, cool. How about I talk a little bit about keeping your burger juicy? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
I'm going to
nice.
be so hungry.
I know, right? Three keys to a juicy burger, Luke. The meat, which is a cross section of muscle, all this protein and fat. Delicious, delicious fat, right? The protein parts are full of moisture. So lean beef is about 60% water. So, lots of juices in there. Grinding up meat kind of pulverizes that muscle fiber that's in there. And this allows the moisture inside to escape. We don't know, that's no good, right? So those, like, if you get meat in one of those like packages and they have that little pad underneath there, that's so
Mm-hmm.
gross. When it's full of meat juice, it's like all run out. So you're going to lose that. So it's actually suggested that as you're forming your patties, assuming you're doing so, by hand, we'll call it, you take 2 or 3 tablespoons of ice cold water and mix that into a pound of ground beef. And this is going to increase the juiciness of your grilled burger because you're reintroducing some of that moisture that has escaped as it sat in its package for so long. How you handle your burgers is also important. So this is point number 2. As burgers cook, the protein in the meat contracts. And again, as it contracts, what's that do? It forces out that moisture.
Squeezes.
It squeezes the moisture out. You need to settle down. Okay. To maintain juiciness, handle hamburgers as little as possible during the grilling process. And of course, I'm saying grilling because we all know that's the right way to make a hamburger. Do you agree?
Well, we'll get there.
Okay. Every turn forces out more juice. So every time you're flipping it, you're forcing out more juice. There's juices sitting on the top of it. You're dumping them down into the grill grates. Your grill's getting nasty, which you should never press. Also, don't press your burger as you're grilling it.
I was just gonna say that. So my brother-in-law, this was years ago, at the house, he decides he's gonna be the one that's gonna make burgers for the cookout we were having, and I come walking out and he's taking the spatula and he's pressing the burger, and I don't know if I slapped the spatula out of his hand,
which you should have.
I did something aggressive to get him to stop doing it. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm getting all the fat and grease out," and I was like, that fat and grease is the best part of the burger, you moron.
You should put your mouth under there and just catch it all.
Oh,
Yeah, so you don't want to do that. And I think people often think it's going to help them cook faster, but it doesn't really, it doesn't make heat transfer any better. It might give you a little more surface area or make your burger thinner, but it's also smushing out all that juice. And that's
make
a
it
bad
thin in the
idea.
first place. Do it that
There
way.
you
Like,
go.
make it really, like, heck, I've made burgers like, 6, 8 inches in diameter. By the time they cook, they're down to like, 5 or
An inch.
4.
Yeah. So finally, last but not least, fat content for the meat that you're using also contributes to the moisture of the burger, right? Not because the burger has more juice, but because, the presence of fat in our mouth makes us drool. Honestly, that's what it is. Like that extra fat, it's tasty. It makes us drool. It makes it taste better. That's why ground beef with fat content like 10% and less is really dry when you cook it. So if you're making your burgers out of that, they're going to be extra, extra dry. You probably want something with at least 20% fat content, like 80-20 meat. You could even go 70-30. I think my brother goes 60-40, and he's going to have a heart attack, but that's fine because his burgers are delicious.
So here's my addition to the whole juiciness. So keep it cold. So a lot of times whenever you cook steaks or other proteins, they recommend bringing it up to room temperature. But burgers, because it's ground, you want to keep these as cold as possible until you're getting ready to cook them. I also highly recommend, and I've seen this on other places, is get the ground meat done fresh. You talked about the packages with those things in the bottom.
Yeah.
That ground meat was like trimmings and who knows where it came from.
Yeah.
Buy a chuck roast, buy a brisket, whatever you want to do, have them throw in some extra fat. But you're right, minimum 80-20. And I'd recommend ground chuck. So buy a chuck roast or buy a brisket and just have them grind that thing up for you.
Are you a meat mixer? Like, will you do like some brisket, some chuck? Will you do
I
some
don't think
sausage in your patty?
I don't know if I've ever done that before. I've added pork
Short
fat
rib?
occasionally.
Okay,
I've
yeah.
added some pork fat to it, like if I had some stuff that wasn't very good. But
Mm-hmm.
normally whenever I do it, I'm getting a chuck roast ground up, and that's just my dad was a butcher growing
It
up,
was.
and that's just like what you did. You never got the pre-made ground meat. It's like you buy a chuck roast and you have them grind it for you, and they bring it out to you.
Yeah, that's the way to go. All right, before we move on to our next topic, I think it's time for a word from our sponsor.
USDA?
USD not. That wasn't even good. No, we don't have a sponsor, but we have 2 shout outs.
Who do we got?
First, we have Kate W.
Good old K-Dog.
Hey Dog says, stickers, you say? I'd love to be flashing some stickers. This is like, we don't usually get that many sticker write-ins. We've gotten
That's a lot.
I'm just about to start a role with Continuum Industries, and everyone is engineers except me. I'm there for HR. She's gonna fire everyone. Help me look clever in front of my new colleagues. Ha! I love tricking people, is what I said. So of course I'm happy to send you some stickers. Interestingly enough, most people that say I want stickers don't actually send an address, so then they have to respond back to my response.
Fun fact, the majority of my career has been tricking people. Just,
I mean,
come on.
Not lying. I mean, I don't want to bury you, but yeah. Next write-in, this is a good one, John S. John without an H, Jon.
Ooh.
S. I am a sophomore at Penn State.
Go Mud Ducks.
Switched. Oh, come on now. Recently switched from civil to architectural engineering. Just got done watching the episode on Penn State and wanted to say it was amazing. It was. I was a little disappointed to see architectural engineering wasn't mentioned. It is an awesome program. I think it's a 5-year program at Penn State. Which is, I mean, I like staying in college.
What are you, a doctor when you get done?
Right? What are you, a doctor? I am starting to look for internships this year and was wondering if you have any advice for finding one. I gave him very bad advice. So what's your advice, Luke?
My advice is if you want to work for free, you could like mail stickers for us.
You're right. That would be an internship.
It would be.
I mean, probably not getting them a lot of architectural engineering experience,
No.
but I said, a lot of schools now have like partnerships. Like I know Autodesk partners with a lot of folks. We have like Concordia maybe, and another one up in Montreal. We have other universities we work with regularly. I'm sure Penn State has something like that. So
yeah,
good luck. If any of you want to offer John an internship, if you want some stickers to be requested, if you want to sponsor us by giving us big cash money, why don't you go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
And don't forget to subscribe, like, share. We love the reviews. Hit up the Unprofessional Engineering swag store at unprofessionalengineering.com, like James said. And don't forget, you can always tell your smart devices to play the Unprofessional Engineering podcast.
Beautiful. Luke, can I talk about grill heat real fast?
Please do.
Raging hot grills.
Raging.
All the time. Actually, you do want it to be raging hot, but not for the entire cooking time. So the intense heat of the grill makes that deeply browned crust on the surface. And I think you're going to talk about that magic for a little bit. But the surface browning begins to occur around 250 degrees F, which means the meat, sugars, and proteins kind of react with each other. I'm going to leave it at that so you can talk about the, Maillard effect?
The Maillard duck effect. So
Maillard duck effect. But hold on, before you get into that, if you leave it on the heat for too long, the burger's crust can go from that delicious brown to like burnt. And that's no good. So to prevent that, you want your grill kind of set up in 2 regions, right? One where it's really hot to get that started, and then a low heat zone that you can move the burger over to so that it can like finish cooking, and then kind of use like this indirect grilling method to keep things going. Also, make sure to preheat your grill. I know you're hungry. I know you want your burger now, but you really want to get that grill heated for like a good 15 minutes or so. Get in there and clean it up with your brush real good. Maybe even use like that grill spray or an oil-soaked towel so that the meat doesn't tear up. But that's my advice for grilling. Go ahead, Luke.
Direct and indirect, you mentioned. So the Maillard effect, it's Maillard, Maillard, Maillard effect. It creates brown pigments when meat is cooked. What's happening is amino acids are rearranging, and certain simple sugars, when they are arranged in those rings, they actually give that brown color and also aroma and also umami, which is mouth
Ooh,
flavor
mommy.
and feel. You mentioned it occurs. I had a number of right around 285 degrees F. So this is why you don't want to put it on when the grill is not at temperature. And the reason being, you'll eventually get that effect, but what'll happen is you will cook your internal temperature too high, dry out the burger, so you end up with a gray burger that's not juicy and that is charred on the outside the way you want it to be, but it won't have any of that extra juice that we were just talking about. And essentially, this is what makes all food taste good, in particular, hamburgers.
That's right. I don't know why we haven't covered Louis Camille Maillard, as one of our great inventors. If he's the one who discovered this, I mean, he's a good guy to me. Tasty fact for you, Luke.
Shoot.
Contrary to popular belief, the grill grates, when they're all caked in all that grossness, right? All that carbonized leftover chicken bits and burger grease and all that, doesn't actually make grilled food taste better. It only slows down the heat transfer process, and it kind of inhibits really good deep grill marks on your browned burgers. So clean your grill grates. Boom. Where do you want to go next?
So I don't know if you had any other so I wanted to talk about the process of making the perfect burger. And I don't know if you had anything else before I did that. Mine's going to probably be about 5 minutes of the process.
I'm going to give you real quick. I titled this very appropriately. Size doesn't matter. Like you said, it can be a big, wide burger. That's where I'm going with that. But shape does. So during cooking, the meat at the edges is what's going to shrink 1st, causing the center to bulge. And then kind of like a meatball, like old meatball guy that you were talking about, right? This can give you that weird round meatball patty. Pressing like a slight dimple into the center of the burger. And again, this can't be one of those super thin burgers. It has to be a little bit thick to do this. But pressing a dent into it prevents this, or at least lessens that bulge, because as those edges shrink, it pops up that center, but it kind of pops it up to the same thickness as the rest of the burger. Other than that, all I had was like choosing your beef. And I already told you, 80-20 or better. So go ahead and let's talk about the
perfect burger. So this is the process, and this is me looking at multiple, like Bobby Flay. There's like, all recipes. Like I hit a bunch of different ones, and what they all kind of said, we already talked about it. 80-20 is minimum where you want to start. And they all say ground chuck, ground brisket. You see these things, people making like Wagyu A5 burgers. I mean, yeah, it's probably going to taste good, but you're really overdoing it, doing super expensive meat. Just don't do cheap. And if you're doing anything like 90% or that 95% lean meat, just like, yeah, don't even come to my picnic. The burger should be at a minimum a 1/3 pounder. So not a 1/4 pounder, should be a 1/3 pounder. And this is because you're going to lose some water. You're going to lose some fat in the cooking process. And you want to make sure that it's a good size burger. You don't want to do thin burgers because then you end up losing the juice. Like those smash burgers that you see, they're good, but they're not necessarily juicy. You're relying on condiments and you're relying on toppings for that burger to taste good. So 1/3 pounder, you probably want it to be at least, probably I'm going to say 1/2 inch when you're making it, again, cold. Don't touch it a lot. Salt and pepper, nothing else. Zero exceptions here. I do that personally, and that was what most of these sites said. And the reason why you're doing salt specifically is your mouth has the ability to taste like 5 different tastes, and salt is one of them. And if you don't add salt, it actually reduces bitterness, increases umami, helps with the savory taste that we get in our mouth. So salt is good, and pepper is more of that bitiness that you need.
Yeah, I'm good with pepper. Salt, I've read before that salt will draw out more of that moisture.
External. You don't mix it in the mix. You only put it on the outside. You only put it on the outside. Yeah,
very good.
You don't put anything in the mix.
Okay.
You have to grill this on a grill, and charcoal is going to taste better. I'm okay with propane if you really need to do propane or natural gas, whatever you have. But let's just say there's a catastrophe and you do not have access to a grill. You can do it on a cast iron pan. Anything else, don't even bother cooking a burger. If it's like a non-stick, pan or something else like broiling a burger, just don't even bother. Just make meatballs or like some spaghetti sauce with it. You'll ruin it. Cheese, if you desire, should always be a non-processed cheese, because processed cheeses, while they melt better, they tend to have really high salt content, and sometimes the water, like if you've ever seen like the American cheese, it gets watery when you cook it. It's because whenever you're heating the cheese at high temperature, it starts to separate, where cheeses that aren't processed, while they might be a little oily, they won't fall apart and have that water come out of them. Cook it to maximum internal temperature of 130 to 140 degrees. So that's going to be medium rare or medium.
That scares me.
Anything like above medium.
Low.
Anything above medium, you just can't do. I mean, what's the point of having a burger?
Medium's where I'm happy, but people who have like rare burgers, like I feel medium rare, I feel like you get into this point or this area where, if you underdid it a little bit, you might be really regretting that.
Meat is so safe nowadays. The stuff that they feed these cows, the antibiotics they give them, that meat could sit out on the counter for days and you could cook it and you'd be fine.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. If you're taking your medical advice from us, and I'm sorry, always let it rest. Never take a burger and put it on a bun, and never cut them in half.
That's that.
You lose all the juice. Come on, people. Don't be a dummy. Your bun needs to be toasted, preferably a brioche. And acceptable toppings, excuse me, acceptable toppings are going to be lettuce, tomato, onion, ketchup, mayo, mustard, pickles. Anything else, you kind of get into what I call gourmet burgers.
I feel like you're just being like a snob at this point. Well, who are you to tell someone what their toppings are allowed to be?
They're allowed to be wrong. I mean, so that is my recipe for the perfect burger, and I do almost all of those. Sometimes I don't toast the bun.
I like toasting the bun.
Yeah, sometimes I don't do onion, but that's how I do my burgers.
Okay, I want to get back into this here in a little bit, but before we do, I need to take a break. That was a lot to process for this week's Luke's rant.
So my rant, and I've done this before, I think maybe with some other food-related episodes. So it might be a repeat rant. But my wife, I love her to death. She's an amazing wife and mother and person. But when she makes me cook her food, and I have to cook a burger until it's completely gray, or a piece of chicken breast until it's like jerky, or a steak, she asks me to butterfly thin steaks so that there's zero pink, red, nothing, completely gray. I feel like people are missing out on something when they don't even try like a piece of meat, chicken, beef, whatever it is that has the natural juices in it that you're just cooking out. And I don't know if that's like just my wife thing. I know a lot of people that cannot stand meat that has any kind of juices in it. They assume it's undercooked, or they have an issue with that. And I don't know where you stand on overcooked or well done. It sounds like you're on the well done side more than the rare side.
I basically go medium on everything. That's kind of my happy spot. I could go like medium rare. I'll eat it, but I'm not.
So no red or no pink for you.
Medium, yeah, I'll go pink.
But no red.
But no red. I'd prefer not. Now, my wife is similar to yours, where the good news is she won't get steak at a restaurant because it's not going to be totally burnt.
I'll have the Caesar chicken salad. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. But again, I'll have the hot zone on my grill and the low zone on my grill for the different steak cookings.
Gotcha.
But she is getting weaseled back into, I think I have her to like medium well now.
Oh.
Maybe I'll be able to get her to medium at some point, but it's been it's been an effort.
And the real problem is when you go out to eat, like if you get a burger and your wife gets a burger or your husband gets a burger and you guys don't eat them at the same cook, you're getting it at whatever the maximum is. Like
You're
when
right,
like
yeah.
when we go and my wife says well done and I say medium, I'm getting a well done burger too, because they're not making mine and waiting 5 minutes and then cooking mine and bringing, either mine is sitting or they're cooking it the exact same amount of time.
And
so it
cooking
ruins it
as
for
it
everybody.
sits. Yeah.
It makes me so mad.
All right, so let's revisit this perfect burger. I felt like you threw a lot out there.
I did.
If you were building one today, what's going on your burger?
Oh, so now is this not gourmet? This is like any
this
burger?
Is whatever you want. Yeah. Tell me what your go-to burger would be.
My go-to burger is ground brisket, cooked to perfection, medium rare, medium at most. I'm putting on crumbled blue cheese.
Oh gosh.
Maple
bacon. So much less of you right now. Like,
you don't like a bacon blue burger?
I hate blue cheese.
Oh, I love blue cheese. But I could do a second one. But like my favorite burger is a blue bacon. So it's crumbled blue cheese, creamy blue cheese. So you got to do both blue cheeses. That's the trick with a blue cheeseburger. And then you got to do really good like mapley bacon. And then when I do that kind of burger, I put arugula on it because arugula is really peppery. And I don't need any condiments or any sauces because the blue cheese sauce and the blue cheese crumble is all that I need.
Oh my goodness.
That's my favorite burger.
If I'm going with probably like a 70-30. I'm going to have 2 patties on it. Probably a little thinner, but super greasy, right? I'm going to have sharp cheddar on it. Cheddar. Ketchup, fresh jalapeno slices, hot sauce.
Pickled jalapeno? No, you said fresh jalapeno. Fresh.
Hot sauce, pickles, and maybe some fairly crispy but not burnt bacon. That's where I'm going with my burger. Oh.
So speaking of burgers, little fun fact. If you had to guess, James, what would you say the world's most expensive burger is that you could just go to a restaurant and buy?
I don't know, something stupid, $10,000.
Actually, no, it's that was high. So about $6,000 US. There's a place called Dutch Diner de Dalton's Golden Boy Burger. It's the most expensive hamburger at $5,964 US. This is someplace over in Europe, so it's like 5,000 euros. The Golden Burger is. Say that again?
I think we're about even on euro to dollar now.
Yeah, we're getting close. The Golden Boy Burger is on a platter of whiskey-infused smoke loaded with premium ingredients like A5 Wagyu beef, king crab, beluga caviar, vintage... I don't even know what Jamon is. Jamon. I've a smoked duck egg mayo, white truffles, some kind of coffee barbecue sauce, pickled tiger tomatoes, and matcha tea, and a Dom Perignon infused gold crusted bun where they airbrush it with gold powder. Like, how could that taste good?
That doesn't sound good. I'll take the burger that I just laid out over that any day. I mean, and I'll take your $6,000. I'm disappointed. Okay, real quick, I had a couple other cooking methods. I know we said grilling is obviously the best, which it is. You said cast iron skillet if you're in a pinch. Totally agree. So heat a cast iron skillet to like medium high heat until it's like smoking, right? Slap your meat on there. Allow the meat to cook for a few seconds. Smash it down a little bit. I know I said previously not to, but if you're doing it in like a big lump to get that mark on it, smash it down a little bit.
And if it doesn't lift, don't force it.
That's a good call, Luke. That is a good call. Flip it only once, like we said. If you have the temperature right, it's probably about a 4-minute process. You got a delicious burger. It might be a little too red for me, but it'd be great. Slap that piece of cheese on the top. You're good to go. Broiling's another option. Preheat, the oven, broil it. This is more of a 6 to 7 minute process for like an 8-ounce burger on the rack. I don't really like
my mom used to broil burgers because she'd make like we were burger fanatics growing up. She'd literally make like 14 hamburgers. She'd put them on a cookie tray
Yeah.
with foil, and she'd broil them, flip them halfway through, and they weren't bad. But it's just you're not getting any contact with like
No.
you're still getting like the Mallard duck effect. Like it's still browning, but that's just from the flames. But there's no contact with like the metal
Yeah.
heat, and I think that might have something to do with it. They're super juicy when you do it, but they come out like meatballs. They tend to puff up a lot whenever you broil them.
Yeah. And the last one that I'm going to put out there is steaming.
I've
But
seen this.
but here's the thing. So we've done this at home. Stolen from guys, well, diners, drive-ins, and
Yep,
dives. Somebody
Guy
did this.
Fieri.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily steaming the whole burger. Like we did it as if we were using the cast iron skillet, right? And did it that way on the stovetop. But then when we put the cheese on, we used shredded cheese and took this heaping handful on, dropped it on top, all over the sides. You put a couple ice cubes or something in there and cover it, and it steams that cheese up, and it gives you this real crispy, greasy cheese skirt as well, so that you have like literally like 3 inches of extra cheese around the burger that
crispy.
you're eating. Oh my goodness. It's like I was dying eating that thing.
Are you a Parks and Recreation fan?
I've seen it, yes.
Yeah, there's an episode where they were doing like a burger contest, and
Yeah.
Rob Lowe, whatever his character is, he's describing this burger kind of like the one I just described. It was like, aged meat and cheese and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And Ron's like, it's meat grilled on a bun. And they took their bite and were like, this is so I think burgers are one of those things where like if you keep it simple, cheese, relatively simple toppings, you're going to end up with a better burger. So
what's your go-to place if you had to go for a burger that people know of?
I mean, locally, there's a place called Burgatory.
Burgatory's good.
That's pretty good. I don't know if that's a national chain or a local chain. Either. It's pretty good, really overpriced.
Yeah.
I went to Red Robin. So when they first moved here to Pittsburgh, the first one opened, I visited. I thought it was a really good burger. And I'm assuming maybe their vendor changed or the way they cook it or something changed. But the last couple of times I went, it's perfectly circular. So it just came out of a machine. No one's like making that patty. And I get its volume and production, but it just did not taste remotely the same as me remembering. So I'd say Burgatory locally is probably my favorite.
Okay. For local, I go to Sorrow's for local.
That is a good one.
It's killer good. But
it's one of the best in Pittsburgh, right? Supposedly.
Oh yeah, it's so good. If I'm going chain, I'm going like Five Guys probably. It's super greasy.
You know what? I totally forgot. Yeah, Five Guys is great. Yeah. They're really good.
We don't have In-N-Out here. Everybody raves about In-N-Out burgers, but we don't have them in Pittsburgh.
Five Guys is pretty good. So I have a couple of fun facts, and then I got some bad news. You want the bad news first, or do you want to finish on bad?
Let's have the bad news first so we can have some fun at the end.
Yeah, so, this is for all of our, I'll say, animal lovers, PETA members, vegetarians that might be listening. Because
I'm wearing my Pittsburgh prison cat shirt. Animal
there you go.
Lover.
And I'm an animal lover, too. One hamburger contains roughly 2,400 liters of embedded water. And what I mean by that is the process of that burger getting to your table, feeding the cow drinking the water, the grain being fed, the processing facility.
Oh, I see.
And if you think about there's lots of water shortages here, in the US and around the world. So the fact that it takes that much water to make a single hamburger is bananas. 1 pound of ground meat to make said burger needs 16 pounds of grain to get there. So the grain that a cow would eat through its lifetime before they chop it up into, ground up goodness, is 16. One patty, and this is why I usually like to get my own beef ground from a whole chuck roast. One patty has roughly 100 to 250 different cows in it. So as you're taking that bite, it's not like this came from I could go down and pet the cow on the head the day before. It's hundreds and hundreds of cows. They all get thrown into a big vat and they just grind them up into ground meat. So cows are, historically mistreated in some cases. I think that's getting better over the years. A lot of times dairy cows that are lame or stop producing milk, they get turned into beef cows, which is, they eat different diets. And it's unfortunately the beef industry it's a very I'll say industry fraught with issues and challenges, legal things. So that's the challenge, is eating meat that is ethically produced and sourced. And I think that's where people kind of get up in arms sometimes. And I completely understand. I'm an animal lover. I don't want any animal to be mistreated in the process of getting to my plate.
You're a real downer, Luke.
Sorry. I am gonna have a hamburger tonight for sure, though.
I might as well. I have some fun facts for you. You want them real quick?
Shoot.
World eats a lot of beef, 57 pounds per person a year in the U.S. In America alone, people consume 50 billion burgers a year. That seems like a
Ready?
lot.
I got one for you too. McDonald's sells more than 75 hamburgers per second.
Yeah.
So that means in 1 minute, it's 4,500 hamburgers. During the course of this podcast, 135,000 hamburgers were served from McDonald's.
That's so fantastic. I love that
amazing.
You did that. Hamburgers were referred to as Liberty sandwiches during World War I.
Interesting.
The Hamburger Hall of Fame is located in Seymour, Wisconsin. I didn't know
that's one I mentioned.
Is that what you mentioned? Yeah. Did you know that there was a fake Burger King in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, it was done in the South Side, and they got bags and all that stuff printed, and they were not a real Burger King.
They were not a real Burger King. That's where I'm. Oh no, one more. In 2000, Kim Jong-il said that he created the hamburger. So, good for him.
So I have one fun fact and then one kind of like other story real quick. Sure. Largest hamburger, 1982. This was in the Guinness Book of World's Record, and it was the largest hamburger, weighing in at 3,591 pounds. They're estimating that between 8 and 10,000 people showed up to eat the burger. There's a picture of it, and there's like a crane. It looked like the bus that the crane picked up when that bridge collapsed here in Pittsburgh. It was holding a giant patty. So
that's got to be delicious.
So when I was in high school, I used to clean, in college, I used to clean kitchens for my uncle. He had a kitchen business. We'd clean the hoods and the exhaust systems of restaurants. And I did a lot of Burger Kings, a lot of McDonald's, those types of restaurants. And I haven't since then, so probably 1990, I don't know, maybe 8, 6, something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood, I have not eaten a Burger King, or maybe a Burger King. Definitely not. I have not eaten a McDonald's hamburger since like 96 is my guess. When you were
cleaning the grease.
That was the last time that I ate a McDonald's. I may have had a Burger King occasionally on the turnpike going out towards Michigan once or twice, but definitely not a McDonald's, because they're disgusting. And there goes our sponsorship.
Disagree. Yeah.
Burger Kings are pretty good. Cleanliness and the way they made them and served them and prepped them, that wasn't bad. I will eat them at other restaurants, but I will never eat a McDonald's burger. And Burger King I keep at a minimum.
I will eat all of them.
You eat at Burger King and McDonald's?
Yeah, absolutely.
On a regular basis, like.
Wow, I wouldn't say
so that. So you had McDonald's or Burger King last year?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I don't
know about Burger King, but definitely McDonald's.
I haven't had Burger King or McDonald's in probably, 4 or 5 years.
Well, you're a healthy kind of guy. Yeah. So. Awesome. Anything else, Luke?
That's all I got. This was a fun one.
This was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for writing in, whoever said to do this one. If any of you need some tips on grilling up a perfect burger, if you want to tell us what you don't agree with that we will tell you you're wrong about, anything like that, go ahead and email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. And until next time,
see ya.